And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange!
Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane to be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep red. We don't need any more of these.
Good morning. You are looking at a live view of Starbase as SpaceX prepares to roll out the third Starship for their Orbital Flight Test 3. We'll bring you live views today of the roll from the production site down to the launch pad. I'll be the host, Trevor Sesnick, and I already see a bunch of 5x5s in chat and already some support, so thank you guys for tuning in. With me today are two experts. First, as always, we have Alex. Alex, how is it going for you?
I'm doing fantastic and definitely ready to roll.
Yeah, it's been quite the process as we've been slowly waiting for SpaceX to finish their Christmas preparations and start actually rolling this thing. And then also joining us tonight is Ryan Weber. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Trevor. Just, patiently waiting for SpaceX to roll this thing all the way to the launch site.
Yeah, and then in the background we have the other Ryan, Ryan Caton, operating the stream. So thank you to Ryan as the other Ryan as well.
The UK Ryan.
The UK Ryan. Yeah, so you guys know the drill. We'll hang out with you guys as we wait for roll to start, and then the majority of the way through the roll to the launch pad. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you tag us at NASASpaceflight in chat, and I will give those questions to our competent co-hosts for hopeful answers. So I guess let's just go over a bit. What's going on today, Alex? What are we expecting? What preparations have we seen so far? All the good info.
Yeah, so I'm just laughing because I saw that transition to that camera, and as you can see, we're having a very festive roll here with Christmas lights, a little Christmas tree, little Santa on the SPMTs. It's kind of fun. So right now we're waiting for them to load the final counterweights on those SPMTs as they prepare to roll on Highway 4 with none other than Ship 28, which we believe will be the ship for the third launch of a Starship. And so that is going to be a major milestone because that basically starts the whole preparations for engine testing of the ship. And then we're going to see also Booster 10 rollout. Obviously, probably not today, but much later down the line, we're going to see that. We're also going to see static fire of Booster 10, and then we're going to see them coming back together for another full stack on the pad. That's going to be glorious. But in the meantime, we're going to have this rollout. You can see there Booster 10 patiently waiting for the launch pad to be fully ready to accept its test campaign. But yeah, it's pretty much, exciting time because Flight 3, you all, it's coming.
Yeah, so I guess we need to immediately just answer the question that I think people want to know our guesses of when do we expect Flight 3 to happen. So Ryan, what can you maybe walk us through what the expected timeline is, what maybe SpaceX's more optimistic timeline is, and when you think it'll end up launching?
Well, my expected timeline would be somewhere around February, give or take, probably mid-February. SpaceX probably wants to do a pretty quick testing campaign on these, not only to prove that they can to themselves, but also prove to NASA and other people that they can get these vehicles ready pretty quickly. The other half of that is going to be, again, regulatory with the FAA. It's mainly the mishap report that SpaceX and the FAA have to go through because of the anomalies caused on Flight 2. So it's going to be kind of curious to see how that goes. We haven't heard anything on how that investigation is going, so we'll just have to wait and hear from SpaceX on any news on that front.
Yeah, so can you just walk us, for those who may not know, what is the rough process that we expect SpaceX to go through for this accident investigation report? And what do we expect the time frame to be relative to the report that was done after IFT1?
Well, the report after IFT1 took a decent amount of time because of the amount of issues that happened during the flight, as well as issues on the ground. Um, the whole fish and wildlife, all that regulatory stuff, it was part of the accident investigation because of what happened with the pad and the vehicle itself. But usually a mishap investigation is with the vehicle, not the pad, so it's still kind of separate. Um, Now with Flight 2, it should be a little bit quicker, but it all depends on if SpaceX can quickly find out what actually went wrong with the flight. There's always been a lot of speculation about what's happened. A lot of speculation that with the booster was fuel slosh around that caused issues with the engines, resulting in the FTS having to be activated. Or with ship, it could have been off trajectory that caused it to have its FTS activated, but there's been no confirmation one way or the other. It's just going to be kind of up to how long it takes them to figure out what the issues were, the corrective actions they have to come up with in order to fix the problems, and then they have to submit all that to the FAA. The FAA then has to approve it, see that they've done all the corrective actions, then sign off on the safety report, and then they can go ahead and give them or revise the launch license again, like they did for Flight 2.
Yeah. So I guess I'll have to toss the same question to Alex then. Alex, what is your expected launch timeline for this next flight? I know you don't do good with these when questions, but I'm gonna force you.
Well, ever since I saw the result, like I kind of said that during the live stream of Flight 2, after the launch, I kind of already said somewhere around February for the next launch, and I still stand by it. I think we're gonna see these. So this vehicle is rolling out today. We hope there are preparations underway for that, right? So at least there's a positive sign of that. And then Booster 10 will roll out as well. Both will get its static fire test. I'm not sure if both will get static fire before the end of the year. Maybe we actually see that, but then after that, we will also probably have some full stack testing, maybe perhaps, and then also the regulatory side of things. As Ryan talked about before, that they need to complete the report. They need to be able to go through all the causes that, all of the things that went wrong. Thankfully, maybe this time around, a lot less things went wrong, and we kind of saw a lot less things going wrong, right? So that means the report might be a little bit smaller, a little bit less things to be worked out, and so that probably means a little bit less of paperwork. And hopefully this time around, if everything is pretty much the same in terms of the flight plan and things like that, maybe they don't need to do any sort of major environmental review or anything like it, which means the Fish and Wildlife Service will not be involved. And that's my hope, at least, that the whole process, if you removed from the whole Flight 2 licensing stuff the environmental side of things, it pretty much lasted about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. And it was a really long process of, going through all of the 63 items that they needed to clear and everything. So if this time around, I'm hopeful that it's less items and overall less paperwork. And therefore, I'm thinking February. So static fires and testing December, January, and then with a little bit more of paperwork stretch, we got a launch in the February timeframe. We'll see, though.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that rough timeline. But of course, this is the space industry, and we even see on significantly more operational vehicles such as Falcon Heavy, uh, fairly substantial delays despite this being its ninth flight already, which I think leads nicely into aviation nerds' question of do we know why SpaceX stood down from the Falcon Heavy launch the other day? And for those who may not know, SpaceX had static fired Falcon Heavy, I believe, on the order of a week ago at this point, maybe even a bit more.
More. It was, I believe, it was on the 3rd,
Oh, wow.
December
So
3rd. Yeah.
like 11 days ago. And then they went into a launch countdown and ended up aborting. So, Alex, do we know why that mission seems to have been delayed at this point to be determined?
Yeah, so we actually have seen right now, I believe, the rocket should be entering the hangar, if not already in the hangar. Yeah, I see it already in the hangar on Space Coast Live. So definitely, it's kind of weird that first they said they had a ground support issue kind of thing, but if there's a problem with the ground support, you don't need to roll back the rocket, right? So if they need to roll back the rocket, that kind of sounds more like a rocket issue that they have found after the fact, which means that probably that's why they're rolling back and they need to remove things. They need to carefully look at the rocket, and usually that means at least a week of delay for these kind of things when they happen. But it's lessons learned. Falcon Heavy, this was I think the 8th or the ninth launch. That's not a lot of launches. And we're gonna see this kind of thing with the Starship too. We saw that with Booster 9, you remember? It had a first static fire in early August. Then it had to roll back to the production site to be worked on. In the meantime, it also got a lot of other improvements, just because it was there. So why not, right? And then it repeated the static fire again in late August. So this is the learning process at the end of the day. Falcon Heavy is a very young rocket still. It hasn't launched more than 10 times yet, so it's not a lot of these kind of issues can happen. And the same thing again with the Starship. And then you can see the hangar door already opened. The rocket is already inside of the hangar. So I guess I should have to move all of the cameras again. I'll do that later.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty cool framing where right there you can see Starship's tower at LC-39A, and then at the right, Starbase's production site. And then just may as well update on the other launch that SpaceX had to delay this week. Yesterday, Starlink Group 6-34 attempted to launch, and they aborted at just over T minus 1 minute due to weather. And then they once again delayed the launch past from today, also due to recovery weather in the Atlantic Ocean. So SpaceX's next launch is now Starlink Group 7-9, which is launching tomorrow, which will have some cool things to talk about. Anyway, back to Starbase and the events at hand.
You can see one of those counterweights, actually two of them. They load one on one SPMT and then the other gets loaded on the other one because it's two side by side.
So are these the final counterweights that are being loaded right now?
I'm gonna be fair with you, I haven't counted them.
Yeah, I haven't really counted either. They shouldn't have many left though, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully soon.
This is also a good shot though, where we can see it's not the North Pole, it is Starbase, but we see the Christmas tree, the Santa Claus, the snowflakes being projected on Ship 28, and then the icicle Christmas lights and lights all around Starbase. Even the launch tower has had some Christmas lights put up. So I guess SpaceX is in feeling pretty festive today. Anyway, getting back to your guys' questions, always a reminder that you can tag us at NASASpaceflight in chat, and we will take your questions. The first question is Zach Roel is asking, does Ship 28 have electric TVC? Ryan, it does, correct?
Yeah, it's got electric TVC. The first ship to ever get it was Ship 26. So yeah, 25 is the last one to have hydraulic thrust vector control. is the best way. Yeah. So yeah, it's got TVC and it's got other upgrades along with it as well.
What are some of those upgrades?
So it's got a little more strengthening in the LOX tank than Ship 25 does. It's got some new Starlink antennas on the nose cone. We'll be able to see those on rollout here. Hopefully that'll allow us. Hopefully it'll allow us to see some onboard views because we didn't really get any on this last launch. So hopefully that gives us that. Because they also upgraded the Starlink terminals on Booster 10
Wait,
as well.
is that are they putting a
Oh
snowman?
no.
They're putting a snowman.
Oh man, they're really leaning into this whole festive holiday winter thing right here, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, they must be shooting some like Christmas advert or something like that. Which, speaking of Christmas, if you want some of our merch, shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Anyway, um, yeah. All right, continuing on with questions. Um, let's see. Starship 24 is asking how many spin primes and static fires do we expect both Booster 10 and Ship 28 to conduct? I believe right now the current expectation is that they'll mostly repeat the similar um, flow that we saw for the previous launch, where they'll conduct the 33 engine spin prime on booster, and then the full static fire, and then the 6 engine spin prime on ship, followed by the 6 engine static fire. Alex, is that still what we're expecting?
Yeah, I will expect a spin prime and a static fire of all of the engines on both vehicles. So basically 4 tests. I think that was more or less what they were shooting for Ship 25 and Booster 9. We saw that for Ship 29. Not Ship 29, excuse me. Ship 25. We saw that for Ship 25 where they did a spin prime and they also did, or how they call it, chill and spin or something like it, right?
Oh yeah,
They did a
light,
chill and
light
spin.
chill and spin.
Exactly, right? A chill and spin, a spin prime, as we call it, and then they did a static fire test of all 6 engines. And so that was with Ship 25. Now with Ship 28, we expect the same thing. Booster 9, as I mentioned before, it had a bit of a trouble static fire, the first one that they did. So they repeated the spin prime and the static fire test later in August, and so they had to repeat it. It wouldn't be bad if they need to repeat that. Let's be honest. I'm not really against them making sure that things work properly, because at the end of the day, we got a really nice flight of Booster 9. We got all 33 engines igniting, right? All the way through staging. I think that was a good call for them to, thoroughly test that thing and make sure that it did what it had to do. So I'm expecting the same thing here. We may get some kind of cryo perhaps with Booster 10 because they have changed. Not Booster. Yeah, Booster 10. Excuse me. There's so many vehicles lately that I'm mixing them. But yeah, it's Booster 10 because once Booster 10 comes back to the OLM, there's new pumps, the new subcoolers, maybe even new tanks. Plug into the tank farm. We don't really know if they're gonna get to that point by the time Booster 10 arrives to the launch pad. So maybe they want to test those not just individually, but also with a vehicle on the pad. And maybe a cryo might be the good way to, just start up things and shaking up all of the systems. That might be a way.
Well, Alex, I would say I expect like a cryo spin prime then a static, like really quick. But especially as we're talking about with the new pumps and subcoolers, I would expect them to maybe do they could do a couple of cryos with booster just to kind of get a feel for the system. But when they do stack, I would expect a wet dress to see how quickly they can how quickly they can load the ship as a whole, the entire stack as a whole.
Yeah.
And maybe even just a full cryo, not using LN2 and locks without CH4. I could see them doing a couple of those tests, especially if for some reason the mishap investigation's taking a little long and they've got time. They might as well work out the kinks with all the new systems, because one thing we've seen is they now have like dedicated return lines coming back from the
Hmm.
OLM, because before they used to funnel it through the subcoolers. Now they've got a dedicated manifold to go back, and which should help him. They might be able to even detank faster and tank faster. So the tank farm's getting upgrades as it's going here.
Yeah, and precisely because of that, I agree with you that because for Flight 2, we were sort of guessing maybe they will skip any sort of wet dress rehearsal. I was of the opinion that they will do in the end wet dress, and they did one. So yeah, yay me! But I totally agree with you that now it seems more compelling to do a wet dress rehearsal because now they've done so many changes to the tank farm that it seems like the timeline might change overall. Because now they have more pumps, they have more subcoolers, so it looks like at least the time frame it took 95 minutes, right, with the previous setup on the tank farm to load the whole rocket. Now it may be maybe 60, like 1 hour, for example, right? So they probably want to check out those timings for loading things. And speaking of loading things, it looks like they loaded at least maybe the last of the counterweights because they seem to be removing all of the
I
They seem more
hooking up
with
focused on the
stuff.
that.
snowman.
They're just
Exactly.
they just can't seem to get the snowman tied down, and I would I'm a kind of agree with Trevor here on this one, and in the back channel here is I just want them to roll the vehicle. It would be nice. Um, it is quite funny, I will say, but it'd be nice
Yeah,
to
come
roll
on,
the vehicle.
SpaceX. If it falls down, just put some stickers or something, some duct tape or
You
something,
know,
SpaceX.
SpaceX may be able to launch the most powerful rocket in history by a factor of 2. They cannot load 2 snowmen onto the SPMT.
Oh,
Um,
this is quality entertainment. I will say that it's pretty good.
yeah, this it does add some much needed excitement in the middle of the night. It's 2 in the morning for us. Um,
It's fine
that's nice.
here. It's 10 a.m.
It's the odd thing too, because the road closure technically closes in 8 minutes, and
Yeah.
they haven't even started rolling yet. So, like, are we gonna get like an extension, or are they just gonna roll and not really, care that the road closure isn't even there anymore? I mean, they've done that before. They have rolled without a closure. I think it was 25's last rollout. They didn't even have a closure for it. They just rolled it down the highway.
Yeah.
The infamous one where the SPMT broke down.
Oh yes. Sawyer
They
and I were on that stream for a long time.
They should have put a reindeer or something in front of the SPMTs.
They did. They have one, I
Yeah.
think.
They do? Oh, I haven't seen them.
I don't think it's on the front. I think it's on the back. I think they have one attached
Oh,
to
on the
one of them on
back.
the back.
Well, I guess that fits because the engine it's in the back, right? For the
Yeah.
SPMTs.
I don't think we can see it from this view. It'll have to be once it rolls out.
I know
I
they
just
have a
wanted
Santa
to
and a
'Cause
Christmas tree. There you
I
go.
was gonna say, contrary to popular belief, just because he has a big beard, that is not Jack Byer at the front of the ship.
Jack is shaved right now, so it couldn't be
Oh yeah,
Jack.
that's true. Yeah, Jack is back in Cali. He'll actually the field himself will be bringing us views of tomorrow's Starlink mission.
Knock on wood,
Anyway.
it actually goes up.
or if there's
Boy.
no fog.
Oh,
Go
Yeah.
away, Vandy Fog. Go away.
No, one thing that Alex was talking about earlier that I thought would be kind of interesting to just mention a cool stat when he was talking about all 33 engines lighting. What's pretty impressive is, right, that's 33 engines that burned for about 2.5 minutes, and then they had the 6 engines burn for on the order of 6 minutes. So on a single flight, they got on the order of 2 hours of burn time of Raptor in flight. So I'm sure with that data, they have a tremendous amount of stuff they can go over now and make improvements on this vehicle for static fire and whatnot. Anyway,
I
back to
mean,
some of your guys' questions.
I would just
Um,
say real quick is like considering how long it's taken for Raptor to go through development, I think it was, and Alex, you or even Trevor, you can probably correct me on this. It's like 2014 since it was at least a Methalox engine, because it started out as an upper stage of Falcon for Hydrolox, I think it was.
Yeah.
It's like after
Maybe a
nearly
bit
10 years,
earlier, 2012 or so, but yeah.
yeah, after nearly 10 years of development, and growing pains, especially with the early starships and the early versions of Raptor. For that Raptor team, it has to be like feel amazing to watch it work that well. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, especially when you compare the new Raptor 2 engines to like the Raptors that flew on Starhopper. Those things were a Christmas tree compared to what we're seeing now. And I imagine future iterations will be even cleaner based on what Elon has said. Um, anyway, let me go over a bit of support from you guys who are up in the middle of the night, at least if you're in the US, or early morning European time. Thank you for hanging out with us, being here, and for those who go above and beyond and give us monetary support, we really appreciate it. PN What says thank you. He gifted 5 team red team members. Wow, I'm a bit tired. Sorry. So thank you very much for your support, PN What. And then Blaze Monger became a launch director, one of our highest levels of support. So now get your name at the end of shows like NSF Live and whatnot. Then we got a roughly $5 super chat asking any chance the Falcon system will be sold when Starship is operational. Alex, how is the handoff from Falcon to Starship going to work?
Oh dear. I think there's gonna be a big overlap in the sense that whenever Starship goes operational, and by the sense of operational, we're talking about its first operational launch, that's gonna be a while until it actually reaches operational cadence. Because one thing is actually having an operational flight where it launches payloads, and another thing is actually getting to the point of just like Falcon 9 right now, where it's getting almost 100 launches in a year, right? And so it's going to be a while until Starship reaches that point, and even by then, Falcon 9 may be able to fly even more than 200 times a year by then. So there's still a compelling case to be overlapping the Falcon action with the Starship action, especially because the first few Starship flights that we're going to see are probably going to be mostly dedicated to HLS, and it's going to be a while at least. I think maybe late 2020s when we see that slow transition, but about selling them out in terms of like maybe selling Falcons, like just the rocket itself to a company to handle or something like that, just like airplanes, for example. I don't think that's ever going to happen, even when Starship is around. But we'll see.
Falcon 9 is far too valuable of a rocket to just sell to someone. I could see I can see it operating to the mid 2030s even. It having Dragon as I mean Starship, once it's able to carry crew, will be helpful, but even just having a Dragon, it's incredibly helpful for even like like an escape craft from a space station or something. You know, as a better escape vehicle, escape pod, as it were.
Yeah,
But
and I think another interesting thing to add here is my understanding of how a lot of the commercial contracts and emphasis on commercial work with SpaceX nowadays is you just go to SpaceX and say, I want to launch this satellite into this orbit. And then SpaceX will, with their timeline, decide is this something that warrants a Falcon Heavy? Is this something that warrants an expendable Falcon 9? Or is it a normal Falcon 9? Or is it Starship? And then SpaceX will choose not only the vehicle that you're launching on, but also what booster and whatnot you're launching on. So my understanding is that the customer doesn't have, in general, as much control over that as they maybe used to have. I'm sure if you
Yeah.
pay more, if you're willing to pay twice as much, you can have what you want. But most launch provider or most customers don't do that. Then Timothy with a store message. I'm getting the house a Christmas present. Getting Max's beautiful mock diamond shot from our store. Also, hi from New Zealand. Well, hello, Timothy. Thanks for tuning in. I guess you guys have a launch later today from Rocket Lab.
Yeah.
The return to flight mission. And then Westy the third, one of our regulars and one of our moderators, gifted a red team membership. So if you got that, make sure you thank Westy. And Westy, thanks for tuning in and helping us moderate all that. And then Imperfect Streamer with the super chat asking, why isn't Ship 26 rolling out? It's the best ship. Well, thankfully Max isn't on stream today, so we don't have to say that it's the best ship when it's not. But why do we? I guess this is a good question in general. What do we think is going on with Ship 26 at this point, Ryan?
Well, for a while there, they had rolled it over near the LR1750 they have at near the Graka Garden, the engine install stand, hooked it up, and a lot of people thought that they were gonna put it on the stand and take the engines off and then scrap it. But after a couple of days of hooked up, then no, they unhooked it and rolled it back over. So we don't really know what's going on. I don't really know why they hooked it up. I think it should just be scrapped. Sorry, Kevin, but it needs to be scrapped. It's just I don't see the point in it anymore. It's a decently old ship. It is. Even S28's still kind of it's gotten a little old, but they need to get flights under their belt, so they're going to start flying stuff.
Yeah, that they do. All right, going over back to some questions. I see lots of questions about snowmen and all of the is Ship 28 powered by reindeers instead of Raptors? I don't think so. We'll have to ask Elon though. Let's see. Ellie Star asking, with suborbital pad A being
Oh, that's a
demolished.
third snowman now.
Yeah, they have 3 now.
Oh my. With suborbital pad A being demolished this week, what do you think SpaceX will build in its place? Alex, do we have any idea?
Well, that's an interesting question because we don't really know what else are they gonna put there, or even if they're gonna put anything there. We do know that they want to move at least static fire testing, perhaps to Massey, but they're not moving right away, right? Because like Ship 28 is obviously going right now to the launch site. Massey's is not ready yet to accept any kind of testing like that, and maybe it won't be capable of that for at least another few more months. So maybe Ship 28 is the last one that does something at the suborbital pads. But then again, you could also think that maybe they are able to build something else there. I don't really know. Maybe it's the second tower. Maybe it's something else. Maybe they just demolish the whole thing and make more parking lots, because why not, right? Oh, man, I was so disappointed when they did that parking lot next to Pad B.
That
Boy.
was very disappointing. That was like I
But
was
yeah.
like hoping for some cool structure. No.
Yeah,
Parking
me
lot.
too. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna put maybe a Pad C or maybe something else. What are they gonna put here? And then they built a parking lot.
Jack's delivery of that in one of the Starbase's updates when we were, of course, talking about it in previous updates, and then he was like, and it's a parking lot? It was so good. Wow. We just got an enormous donation from Ali gifting 50 red team memberships. Ali, that is so generous. If you guys got those, make sure you thank Ali in chat. And I really hope you guys enjoy some of the exclusive content you guys get. over the next month that you have this. But seriously, that's amazing. Allie, thank you so much. All right, back to questions.
It's a funny joke. How many aerospace engineers does it take to put up 3 snowmen?
Yeah, I guess the bigger question is how many aerospace engineers does it take to take down a tent? If you know, you know. Uh, all right. Starship 24 with another question. What do we think the first ship to fly a payload will be? Ryan, what's your guess?
Ooh. Well, I guess the question is because right now the only payload bay they have is Starlink. So,
Hmm.
huh. I really don't know. It's kind of, it depends on which is the first ship to go into orbit, which depending on how 28 does might be 29. I'd say either 29 or 30, maybe just like a test deployment of Starlink. Um because I know they want to get going on that pretty quickly. And if they can get into orbit and stay into orbit with a bunch, then yeah, they'll just go ahead and do that. What do you think, Alex?
Boy, I think perhaps the serial number is going to be for a Starlink. If not in the late 30s, it's going to be on the 40s. I believe Elon said that he sees a Starlink flight on Starship around late 2024, along with a catch of a booster, which probably means that we're going to have to wait for V2 of a Starship, is my thinking. But these flights of V1 of a Starship kind of proves the point, just like SN8 and SN9 and so on and so forth prove the point that landing could be done. These prove the point that an orbital flight of a Starship is possible, and that they can get up there, they can do their thing. Obviously, they're still trying to get to that point, but that's at least it looks like that's the goal with these vehicles. And then with V2, I think that's probably going to be when we see things like ship-to-ship propellant transfer. We're going to see payload flights and things like that. So I think those are going to be the vehicles that are going to be doing those things, because it's the next thing that they need to prove.
It's gonna be really interesting to see what changes I guess a supposed version 2 of Starship has, because it's really hard to distinguish what version 2 is, because I mean, you could consider like ship 20 and up as the orbital ships, and below that suborbital ships, but there's also like groups in there that have significant changes over one another, so it's hard to discern what would it be. But because we still have to see like interfaces for docking, for like fuel transfer and stuff like that. Like, what does
Yeah.
a QD look like on, say, the depot versus a tanker ship or something along those lines? So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what they do coming down.
And that's why I think it's probably going to be V2, because I don't see we've seen any of these vehicles, because these are the last of V1, right? As Elon put it. And so we haven't really seen any sort of docking mechanisms or any coupling of vehicles, anything like it. It doesn't look like these vehicles are going to be fitted with that. But V2 could be already made from scratch, from the beginning already, to be able to adjust to that. Again, we'll have to look at that. We'll have to look at all of the barrel sections and all that sort of stuff coming out of the Star Factory. That's going to be really, really interesting, because back in the day, we were able to see all of that stuff happening in the open, and now, they're gonna roll out things mostly completed out of the Star Factory, right? And we're gonna be, oh my gosh, they have all of this already built. So yeah, we're gonna be surprised. I bet.
Yeah. Star Factory is like a blessing and a curse. It'll make it so that they're able to do a lot more and a lot, cleaner, since it'll be a nicer environment, but also it really sucks that we won't be able to see everything going on. Let's see. For those who are just joining us, by the way, since we've been live for about 40 minutes and we're still just looking at SpaceX setting up Snowman, we are still expecting a rollout of Ship 28 to the suborbital launch pad today. Their road closure ended about 10 minutes ago. However, SpaceX has rolled out vehicles before without having road closures at all, so it seems that these road closures are a little bit more fluid. So yeah, we're just gonna hang out with you guys, and if you have any questions, tag us at NASASpaceflight, and we'll throw them into the conversation that we're having. With that, we've gotten a little bit more support. Bruno is saying it's past 3 a.m. here. Are they still moving Ship 28 today? I just covered that, and yeah, as of right now, it looks to be the case. And then Clark with the super chat. Thank you very much. Alrighty. So Skull is asking, why are they moving Ship 28 and not Booster 10 now? Do we know or have any expectations of when Booster 10 will roll out, Ryan?
Well, currently we're waiting on the orbital tank farm to be all the upgrades to be completed at me and Alex were talking about earlier. One thing they did do today, well, I think it was yesterday. They had tested the new methane pumps without any methane. You could hear them, or it may have been a couple days ago. They spun up and spun down, trying to see how well they were doing. And then today they did some stuff, I think, on the LOX side. And it looks like they purged some of the pipes that they've been working on. So, which is a really good sign that they're getting ready to close things up and start on, putting the booster QD back together, because there's still hoses missing on the backside plus the cover. And then they need to purge the entire system before they put a vehicle back on, because it wouldn't end well if they if FOD ended up inside the booster. That would not end well if they did that. So they got to be careful.
Right. All right, let's continue on with some of these questions. Need Pizza is asking, how high is the chance that the Christmas tree isn't secured properly and it'll hit one of our cameras? I don't know if it would hit one of our cameras, but it does seem like a non-zero chance of some of this stuff falling off, which would give us entertaining content.
Yeah.
And isn't that what we're here for? Entertaining content.
Yeah, we're here to stare at SpaceX blowing up Christmas decorations.
I mean, they do seem to have to be having fun with all of this, I guess. So good for them.
Couldn't they have done this during the day?
No, because you cannot
No,
see the
Trevor.
Christmas light. Trevor,
No.
you gotta think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, but set it all up during the day and then quickly roll this out at night and then let me go to bed.
And they're putting more lights up now too, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
But then the Europeans will not be able to see it. It's 10 a.m. here right now, so it's a good moment.
Yeah, that's true.
I bet we have a lot of Europeans in chat right now.
Yeah, everyone should. The mods will hate me, but I know Chris likes to do this. Where is everyone from in chat right now?
Oh.
Yeah, because it's 3 a.m. in Central Time, so it's a really nice time now in Europe, or even in Asia. I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm
people as
sorry,
well.
mods. Yeah, it's basically
Australia,
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in New
Europe.
Zealand. See, it's a nice time for everyone else. It's just not the right time for you Americans.
Hey, there is one other American. Oh, two? I see two Americans. Someone from Ohio,
Oh, Maine,
Oregon.
I mean, for me though, because I work nights, so this is like, this is a little bit after lunch. for me,
Colorado,
so-
Colorado gang, let's go.
Ooh.
There you go. See if anyone from Minnesota. Anyone? It's 3:14 in the morning.
Iowa,
Here,
Washington
there's
State,
Minnesota.
Yeah.
California. See, well, in California it's like 1 a.m., right? It's
Yeah.
not
Someone
that
from
late.
Not
Vandenberg,
bad.
a Canadian.
Vandenberg. Ooh,
Wow, yeah, bunch of people from UK, Australia, bunch of Australia.
From the Cape. Glasgow. Oh, I saw a lot of people from Glasgow yesterday in Seville.
Yeah, wow, a couple folks from Insomnia, USA here. Don't remind me, please.
It's not insomnia if it's your normal sleep schedule.
Yeah. Um, yeah, well, once again, everyone, if it's the middle of the night or a convenient time for you, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, just hanging out and having fun here.
Yeah. Um, Keith is asking, will Starship version 2 use Raptor 3? I don't think we know the answer to that yet. Elon's tweets were pretty vague, unfortunately.
I think the answer
Um,
to that is maybe, maybe not. Who knows, right? It's
Yeah.
that kind of answer just yet. We'll have to look and see. The
Yeah.
only way is just wait to see them building those vehicles and see what kind of engines they have.
The thing is though, is it's gonna get much and much harder and harder for us to see like what engines certain ships have and what certain ships look like, because based off of some of the work they've been doing with the newest Star Factory extension, it could be getting a lot higher. There's some speculation that the new section where Tent 1 and 2 were, it could be high enough that SpaceX is going to stack the nose cone, the payload bay section, and maybe even the forward dome together, where you have the ship comes out in two halves, gets stacked in the new high bay there, because it's looking like that's going to be the new ship bay, based off some other stuff as well. And they'll stack it, they'll put it on a turntable, then put it on a work stand, and then it's going to be really hard to see what engines are installed. It's just going to be a lot harder to track everything, and hopefully we get views, because it's always fun to get the views, but a lot of things are changing as they figure out how to streamline their production and keep things cleaner than they have in the past. So
Yeah. Let's see, then we have a certain, once again, Kevin Michael Reed, the producer here at NASASpaceflight.com, accusing me of not being in Christmas spirit, which, frankly, I agree. It's final season at school. I can't think about Christmas yet.
I'm in Christmas spirit. I even have one of our sweaters with the crew dragons and everything. I like them.
Yeah, Pauline?
What?
What is that?
Did you
Ryan?
really?
Ryan,
Oh God.
Oh, it's Chris. Wow.
Well, everyone, happy holidays, I guess.
Yeah.
oh man,
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, how dare you accuse me, Mr. Kevin? Let's see, going back to some questions from you guys. So yeah, I guess this is an interesting question. How does SpaceX apply the lessons from IFT-2 if the vehicle is built way before IFT-2 flew? So what kind of retrofits have we seen after IFT-2, and how has SpaceX handled this process in the past, Ryan?
Well, it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they apply the lessons, because a lot of it could be internal changes that we don't see them make. With Flight 1, a lot of the changes we saw them make were like outwardly. You could see the new CO2 tanks, the bigger chines, the minus of the HPUs, the new vents that are installed on the ship engine section, and a lot of stuff like that. But eventually there's gonna be changes made where we won't see them because they'll be internal to either the payload bay or inside the tanks themselves. So it's gonna have to be SpaceX telling us what they are, or they won't tell us at all. So that's just kind of where we're at.
Right.
Oh
And
dear.
there's the end of our
Finally.
Christmas music.
I had been hearing Christmas music all day long yesterday, so I want to hear
Oh
more.
man.
What if we all
I think I
sung
have
it
my fill.
instead? Um, oh
Oh,
gosh.
No, but don't go up with the volume. Just keep it there, low.
You just keep
Come
it
on.
quiet, and it's kind of just a relaxing, we're in a vibe right now. I mean, it'd be nice for SpaceX to start rolling, but they really seem keen on putting up as many decorations as they possibly can on this. So, I don't know. Who knows when it's going to
Huh.
roll at this point?
Boy.
Kevin and Chad, if it was Taylor Swift, Trevor would be singing. That is true.
That is true.
I think it's a good thing for all of us that we are not allowed to play Taylor music. I don't think you guys would want to hear that. At least sung by me.
I don't know if you'd want to hear Trevor sing. I really don't. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah. When at NASASpaceflight Christmas album, uh, ask the store team. um, Paul is asking, will we see the report like we did after IFT1, or was that just an Elon thing? I think what he's referring to is after IFT1, Elon tweeted the list of 63 corrective items.
I don't
Do
think we saw
expect
any
to see that again?
report.
Yeah.
No, there wasn't a report sent out because a lot of the stuff would be proprietary information
Yeah.
that SpaceX isn't going to share with anyone. When it comes to like other mishap reports, and I'll use aviation as an example, that is usually public information because it's public safety and stuff for like airliners when you do have accident investigations and stuff like that. But for a rocket company, it's all proprietary or ITAR, however you want to swing it. So I doubt they would ever say
Yeah,
anything.
that one. And then also that list of items, it's like very generic
It's
wording.
very,
Vague.
yeah.
Whereas like the actual report is probably several volumes, and like every volume is probably several pages, like hundreds of pages or something like that, and with very detailed descriptions of what went wrong, what are the fixes are being done, and things like that. This is just like a very, very, very succinct way of saying these are the things that we need to fix, and in a very vague way of replace certain components on certain part. It's
Yeah.
literally worded that way. It's not that I'm saying certain as as a general term. Is that it literally says that. So
Yeah,
Alex and Trevor, the SPMTs just lifted up the ship,
ooh.
so
Ooh,
we might see a.
Oh yeah, I
finally.
can see it doing A/B testing.
Yeah, and back to that list, by the way, like Alex was saying, it seemed pretty obvious that Elon probably sent an email like, "Can I get the list?" tweet, and then some PR person was like, "Oh, let's redact a lot of this stuff." But it was still cool to see what they were working on. Anyway, we've had a lot of support coming in. KK Designs just gifted 20 Red Team memberships. So thank you very much for another large amount gifted. Bideford, a very regular member of ours, with $30 super chat, as I don't sleep anyway. Thanks for all for streaming and decorating Shift 28. Cool. Well, at least we're not the ones out there trying to decorate it, but it is cool that SpaceX is doing that, and thanks for tuning in as always. Revhead gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Let's see. Mika, with another super chat. Finland, we have all the snow for snowmans.
Oh,
That's
it's starting
There
to roll.
goes.
There it goes. Now we can see
Rolling
the
and rolling it
holiday
goes.
display as it rolls out.
Oh, God, again.
So for those who may not have seen this before, how this process generally works is now that they are rolling, they'll go onto the highway. Thank you, Ryan. And that will take about 40 minutes to roll from here down to the production site. And then that will conclude our coverage once we're there. But we still got, 30 to 40 minutes or somewhere in there. Let's see, Daniel, how many Starship iterations can they blow up? So that's actually an interesting question. When can we expect, or when can we expect these missions to be successful and start counting any failures as failures as opposed to just being like, oh, it's a test mission, it's fine? What is the criteria for that, Ryan?
It really depends on, because basically all these V1 ships are kind of counted as prototypes, and early V2 is going to be counted as prototypes. I would think once we start actually calling them failures is going to be when they're actually performing a specific mission. Whether it's they say they fail to do like a propellant transfer demo, I would call that a failure. Or if they fail to deploy a payload, I think that's kind of where we have to get in order to be considered a failure rather than like a testing anomaly or something along those lines.
Right, yeah. It is crazy how many vehicles SpaceX has lined up in that shot. Oh, and now the Christmas tree shot.
Okay, do we wanna chime in here? Maybe $5. What falls first? The lights, the snowman, the tree,
The ship?
the ship? No, we don't want the ship to be falling.
To take I don't know, take bets or just kind of see what falls first. Yeah.
UK Ryan says in the back channel, Christmas tree.
Oh no, I see in chat the heat shield tiles. Please no.
You probably won't lose money if you bet for that.
Oh man, I love these late night streams. As Max would say, they really do hit different.
I'd go with that snowman. That's yeah. I don't know if he's barely hanging on right there already.
Oh boy. Well,
they're going to fix him. Snowman down, snowman down.
Oh my.
Oh, I didn't expect this. Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, with the American flag in the background now.
it's a parade. If you think about it, it's a
Yeah.
Christmas parade. Oh boy, I hit the mist.
Oh man.
I see in chat Jack Claus. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think Jack would absolutely love to be climbing on the SPMT with those snowmen and taking photos of the ship
yeah,
while
he
it's
would.
moving. Yeah.
You know, when they pass by the camera, we need to wave at the rocket because it's a parade. It's a Christmas parade.
We have another question from Aviation Nerd asking, when do you think they will try booster and ship catch? Also, is Ship 26 going to get scrapped? So I think we kind of touched on Ship 26 earlier, that it seems likely that it will be getting scrapped in the near future. But when do we expect SpaceX to attempt catching?
Well, booster's not going to happen way before ship. It's kind of hard to tell. It really depends on. They're going to need a lot of practices going into the Gulf of Mexico with booster to try to land it at a specific area because they have to be pretty dang accurate to land it in and land it on those chopsticks. And as we've seen with Falcon 9, sometimes they don't hit exact center. Although with super heavy, it should be a little bit easier to control with the thrust to weight ratio it is. But we'll have to see on that. Ship, they're going to have to come up with an interesting way to actually catch it. If they ever do. I still think they're going to end up going to landing legs down the line because they need them anyways, but it's going to be iffy to see if they actually catch ship. So,
Yeah. I'm still like not the fan of calling it catching. I feel like it's kind of a
it's
bad name.
landing on arms is really what it is.
Yeah. Um, let's see. It looks like we have 2 snowmen down already.
Oh, they. Yeah, there's a reindeer in between the SPMTs there with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with the blinking red nose.
Oh my gosh,
Well,
yeah.
now we have the
SpaceX.
thumbnail of this video. There you have it.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's the thumbnail.
Yeah.
And for a daily and for other stuff. Oh yeah. We got thumbnails for days now. Let's go.
Yeah, the ship team is delivering their present to the launch site. I don't know what you guys want for Christmas, but I wouldn't mind a ship for the next Starship flight. I like that as a Christmas gift.
Oh boy, another one.
Oh boy.
Let's see. Oh, here's a good question. Foxy Plays is asking, any new measures to keep the heat shield tile from falling off the ship before and after taking off?
Well, the one thing I'll say about the heat shield is, so one of the reasons why Ship 25 ended up having a lot of issues is because it was an old ship. It's been outside for a while. One of the things that happens with these vehicles when they're sitting outside is sun starts beating on the stainless steel, and the stainless steel will expand, and then during the night it'll contract again, and so which pushes the pins, apart and closer together, apart and closer together. So then the tiles come loose, and then of course you have rain and wind and everything else. It doesn't really help, controlling that. So I think it's a matter of just figuring out better ways to work it. Maybe the smaller pins, as we've seen. It's going to be a work in progress to get it better. They'll nail it though. They got some pretty smart people over there, so I think it's just a matter of time before they get it down.
Yeah, I mean, this is really what
There
SpaceX
you go.
is just. There they go. Yeah, this is really what SpaceX is
Bye.
just built for, is, when they have these problems, they have such just phenomenal teams of engineers and technicians and whatnot that work through these issues so quickly. And I mean, it is just, I know I've said this a lot, but to think about just the improvement between IFT1 and IFT2, where they went from, destroying their pad and having a quite unsuccessful first stage burn, and losing control to, almost close to a perfect ascent on Flight 2. Really goes to show how hardworking this team is. But yeah.
It's good to note too that in terms of the heat shield, SpaceX also has NASA that they work with as well. when we all know how much experience NASA has with heat shields, especially with shuttle. Yep, calling out shuttle there. Too bad we don't have Crispy on here with us, but it's they talk to those engineers as well who have just a ton of experience dealing with that kind of thing, and they use that to make this even better. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Uh, yeah, I guess JSA is asking, is there a way to be hired by SpaceX if you're not from the US? Um, or perhaps any of their contractors. And I think this is just a good time to remind people this is not SpaceX's decision, right? This is the United States has the ITAR, which is the International Traffic and Arms Regulations. And a lot of that kind of prohibits who SpaceX is allowed to hire. Um, but I believe it is quite difficult, even with a green card or whatnot, to um, uh, work there. But sorry, I don't have any advice. But I think that's an important point. Um, uh, Aviation Nerd is now asking, what's going to happen with B4 and Ship 20? Assuming at some point those will get scrapped, SpaceX doesn't have any real incentive to keep them around.
Other than
Well,
being the first ever stack, the first booster on on any OLM. I mean, they could keep them around to put them in a museum or just keep them in the rocket garden. Um, don't really know what they're gonna do with them. We'll see. Yeah.
yeah. Um, let's see. Oh, good. We got more Christmas music.
There we go. More of that.
Um, oh boy, here's another when question for you, Alex, since I know you love them so much. Carl is asking, how long before we get weekly flights of Starship, and will the FAA start relaxing the red tape to allow this?
It kind of depends on how well the flights go. Because if they go bad, then they need to review a lot of things, obviously. So it just comes down to, the more reliable Starship becomes, the easier we'll get the whole paperwork stuff. Because then it's just a matter of just repeating the same paperwork. When you just do the same thing, you just do the same paperwork. When you start failing and you need to change things, that's when you need to do new paperwork that takes a long time to review and things like that. And so you see Falcon 9. Falcon 9 is doing pretty much well right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. And
Is that our version of Christmas lights?
yeah, I do think we should be careful in saying red tape though, because absolutely, there was regulatory holdup between Flight 1 and Flight 2. But first of all, I don't think it was anywhere near as much as Elon may have suggested it was, because we saw even after Elon said the vehicle is ready for flight, SpaceX did a lot of testing to it, and they did a lot of other modifications. Then on top of that, let's not forget that on the first launch, SpaceX had a 120-meter tall vehicle they didn't have control over. So I don't think it is unreasonable at all for the FAA to want to really understand what happened and make sure that such an event doesn't happen again. Because at the end of the day, public safety does really matter. So I think the FAA generally did a great job handling it. All right, we're getting another question about. Right, we learned from NASA a few days ago, Ryan, that the next flight of Starship is going to attempt to do a propellant transfer test on IFT-3. But how is SpaceX going to do that, given that they'll only be launching a single ship?
Well, they can do it in between the header and the main tanks. So basically, just transferring like I think the contract award for that propellant transfer was like 10 tons or something along those lines to do between the headers and the main. It's just a demonstration that they can do a large scale propellant transfer, and relatively to Starship as a whole, which is like 5,000 tons. 10 tons is still a lot of propellant. Like that's a decent amount of weight. So if they can show that, then it's a step towards being able to do full ship to ship or ship to depot propellant transfers.
Yeah, um, it'll be interesting to learn more about that. Uh, Alex, do you have any speculation of how they may go about doing it?
The propellant transfer demo on perhaps this flight? Well, just like we said before, right? It's probably going to be between the header and the mains, or the mains to the headers. We're not sure which way it'll go, but it's somewhere around that. And I think NASA said that it's not even sure that it's going to be the next flight. Like they're still deciding whether to do it on that next flight or maybe on a later flight. I guess it just comes down to whatever kind of readiness SpaceX is with that kind of testing. But maybe this time around they are more confident on reaching that point in the flight of when, they are already in space with the engines turned off and in coast phase, right? And so at that point maybe they are able to do all of that transfer stuff, all of that testing.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think this is kind of, an interesting conversation to have of how do we expect this flight to go? Because obviously, the improvement from Flight 1 to Flight 2 is huge, but it at least to me wouldn't be totally surprising if this flight went a little bit less well. Right? We saw a somewhat similar pattern with Falcon 1 launches where the first flight didn't go super well, the second one was super close to reaching orbit, and then third one they had another failure at stage separation. So I guess starting with you, Alex, do you think that we'll see something similar with Starship, or do you think they're gonna try to, uh, or do you think they're gonna nail it this time and get that on that suborbital trajectory that they are hoping for?
I think they're gonna go with a suborbital trajectory for now.
Yeah, and do
Yeah.
you think they're gonna hit that on Flight 3 successfully?
Well, there might be a good chance they actually are able, like if they are actually doing the test on that third flight, there might be a chance that they do succeed, or that at least something does go right. I think even if it's just half of the stuff that they wanted to transfer, that will still be a really neat thing, because it will be the first time there's any such transfer of cryogenic propellants between two tanks in space. Obviously not between two vehicles, but between two tanks in 0G. Even if it's just a couple of tons, that's way more than has ever been done with cryogenic propellants. Obviously, a lot to get to the point of doing more than 1,000 tons. That's the whole vehicle can hold about 1,200 tons of propellant, more maybe with the version 2. So there's a lot of wrong way to go to that point, right? But one step at a time. Something, anything, if they do anything, that'll be tremendous in terms of the data that they can gather.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Um, let's see, we got a few new pieces of support. Terrence became a PadRad member. Welcome to the NSF membership. And then Chazzy with the super chat saying, metal print of this holiday special rollout when I suspect it is nowhere near high enough resolution where it would not meet the standards that we require for our metal prints. We want those to look amazing when they're on your wall. And sadly, I think the grainy shots due to just the low light in the middle of the night are not good enough. But hopefully we get some cool photos at some point from Sean or something like that. Let's see. What do you think? Will the tanker ships be dedicated to either LOX or CH4 or carrying both? Um, Ryan, we're expecting them to probably transfer both LOX and CH4, correct?
Yeah. The tankers will do both. And then of course the depot will be most likely a bigger version of a ship or whatever. So that can hold enough it can hold enough with some to spare for like boil off to be able to transfer and fully load up like a whether it's a cruise ship or cargo version to go to either the moon or Mars or beyond. So yeah, they'll do both.
Yeah. Cool. Um, let's see. Paul is asking, is there a cargo door on ship 28? Alex, has that been welded shut yet?
No, so this is so there's a lot of confusion in what is the first and what is not the first. So ship 24 was the first ship to be to have a payload bay section and a payload door. The problem is ship 24's payload door was welded shut. The same thing happened with 25, but ship 28 is the first that so far has a payload bay, a payload dispenser and everything, and a door and all of that, but it hasn't been shut closed. So, maybe it'll fly with a full kit. We don't expect any sort of satellites inside, but that's a nice testing for whenever they actually do it, which I believe it's going to be on version 2.
Right. Cool. Um, let's see. I'm looking for more questions. Um, so I guess we briefly talked about this earlier, Ryan. But is the tiles on ship 28 any newer than the ones that flew on ship 25 and ship 24? And then also, I'll add on to that, we saw SpaceX testing around the other day with some barrel sections with smaller tiles. So do we know what's going on with that?
So there are more smaller tiles on 28 than there are on 25. I do not remember exactly how many more. Um, the one fun thing about 28 is that its mid lock section, which is the main part of the LOX tank, um, which is just below the common dome and just above the thrust section, is actually from S26. So the heat shield tiles that it has were a little off compared to the rest of the vehicle. So this vehicle actually has an extra seam between the tiles than other ones do. Um, whether or not they are a newer version, I'm not 100% sure. Um, they have different sizes and different types. And then regarding to the test article that we saw, which looks like is for smaller tiles, it's really kind of hard to tell what they plan on doing that. It kind of is just there. It's we'll have to wait and see what they do. So that's just kind of what we have to wait for at this point.
Cool. Um, all right. Looking for more of your guys' questions as we um, continue on with the rollout. Hopefully soon it'll be passing down our highway cam. Um, let's see. Paul is asking, is space cool enough to keep fuel chilled, or do they need extra chilling of fuel? Alex, how does that process work for cryogenic uh, propellants on orbit?
Well, normally they have different ways to be able to control that, but obviously it is more complicated in space than whenever they are, you know, in the ground. The ground obviously has the ground support system to be able to control it. But in space, normally one of the things that they do is constant vents. So you pressurize the tank, and then you vent part of the boil off, and believe it or not, that actually cools down the tanks and obviously the liquid inside. So even though you're venting some of that boil off, it is called adiabatic cooling. And so what that means is that it's basically like when you open a pressurized can of something, right? And it feels cool. That is sort of what happens there, where the energy for that gas to expand, it is taken out from the liquid. So the liquid cools down, and that's a way for you to be able to keep that cryogenic liquid. So that's what they do for Falcon 9 with the liquid oxygen. And that's why you see the gray band on the kerosene tank, because the kerosene happens the opposite. It needs to be heated up. So with the liquid oxygen, they do these sort of ventings where they try to keep it cool. But then with a kerosene on Falcon 9, they need to keep it hot, and so they have that gray band for long coasts or with the upper stage. We may see some funky things on the tanks on the Starship, maybe, or maybe they try to point the heat shield tiles to the sun or something like it, so that it protects the tanks from heating too much. We'll see.
Cool. Here's a question for you, Ryan. Jay is asking, do you think it would have been smarter to just fly the latest Starship that they have? Commenting that Ship 30 is also pretty much ready. So what do you think went into SpaceX's decision to launch Ship 28 over Ship 30?
Well, as a matter of fact, 28 is far more ready than Ship 30. So, 28 has already been to Massey's. It has gotten its cryo. It spent, I think it was around 2.5 months on the engine install stand. It got a bunch of mods, it got its engines, and it's ready for static fire testing. 29, if they decided to go with that, that would still need all of its extra work, plus its mods, plus its engines. So it's even farther behind 28. And then 30 hasn't even gotten cryoed yet. So, based off of past work with other ships, if they had decided to, say, skip 28 and 29 and go with 30, well, it wouldn't be ready till maybe June of this year, because it takes them about 2-3 weeks to really cryo it, and right now they're doing a lot of work over at Massey's, so that's one of the reasons why you probably haven't seen either B12 or S30 go over there, because they're doing a lot of construction work over there.
Am
And
I
then
am I
yes,
seeing
Alex.
correct that the people working on all of this are also suited up as elves or something like it?
I think they're wearing Christmas hats.
Yeah,
That's
they're really festive tonight.
I think they're just having some fun. Oh man.
And there's Ryan with his music again.
But to finish up that question, it would take several extra months for them to get 30 ready, and they wouldn't be able to fly by February. It would be later. It'd be sometime in the summer that it would be ready. It takes a while to get a ship fully ready. From when they finish stacking it to when it's ready for static fire testing or flight, like 9 months. So it takes time.
Yeah. Cool. So then I guess Michael has a question about when do you think we'll see the first fully stacked version 2 of Starship?
Well, first fully stacked version of 2 Starship is going to be kind of interesting. Because, like, it really depends on whether or not they want to use Tent 3 for making parts of it, or if they want to use Star Factory for that. And we don't know what, where they are with Star Factory on that kind of stuff. Also, do they not want to use the high bay for it? They could want to use the new high bay, Mega Bay 2. It's going to be kind of interesting to see, because we've always seen in the past how between like big versions or iterations of ship, how it takes a bit longer because they go through and they scrap a lot of old pieces, and then they kind of figure out how they want to do their new versions. So it it it's kind of hard to figure out how long it's going to take them to do that. Alex, what do you think about that too? Like, it's gonna be kind of interesting to see how long it takes them to actually make a full version 2.
Yeah, I think we won't see a full version 2 until at least the summer at the earliest. And maybe a first launch maybe in the second half of the next year of 2024. I think we're going to see the last few of the V1s fly on the first half, and then perhaps a small stand down, to be able to bring up V2 and everything up to production and testing and things like that, and then a first flight after the summer, perhaps in the fall timeframe. That's why I'm thinking maybe 5 flights in 2024, like maybe 3 of the V1s and maybe 1 or 2 of the V2s. We'll see.
There's also the just to add on to that is we also got to wait to see what the when we're gonna get the second tower over there, because shots of Sanchez, we see them getting ready to receive tower pieces, probably all the ones that were already built at Roberts Road. So it'll be kind of interesting to see when they start working on that.
All right. And here we have the Ship 28 passing our last camera with some really close-up views of the entire decoration of the SPMTs and Starship vehicle in general. All right. Here we should have some cool shots coming in just a second. Yeah, we always love this shot of the booster rolling right by and being able to look up it. Man, that's such a wild sight that SpaceX put this much effort into decoration.
They lined up the SBMTs, the entire stand, put the snowman on, put a reindeer on. If anyone was wondering why it took them so long to get it rolling, there's your reason right there. They went all out in decorating this. It looks cool though. To be honest, it does look cool.
Yeah. A bit more support came in. David became a Capcom member, getting access to our awesome member Discord server. So, hope to see you in there. Make sure you say hi to all of us and look forward to that. And then P and What gifted another Red Team membership. So, thank you very much for all of your guys' support tonight. Even the snowman says thank you. Look at that. He's waving. They just look so happy. Alright. Looking for a few last minute questions. PN What is also asking, will Jack be covering West Coast to Best Coast launches soon? And the answer to that is yes, as of right now, assuming that we actually have good views to show everyone. We will be streaming the Starlink launch from Vandenberg later today, where Jack will be, the field himself, I should say, will be out in the field, bringing us awesome live views. And I'm sure now that he's back for a bit, he'll be streaming some other launches out of there.
Has a lot of lights.
It has a lot of them.
And lights on the inside too, up inside the engine bay.
Wow, yeah. Oh my. All right. Let's see. If the Graham is asking, if the next test is successful, do you think they'll start prioritizing launching Starlink with Starship? So I guess this kind of goes into what Alex was talking a little bit earlier about when they'll start going to full orbital missions, which will also require some changes to the permit with the FAA. So as of right now, I don't think we have a a super good indication of when SpaceX will start Starlink launches, correct?
Look at that. They have the lights inside of the engine section. That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that it's probably gonna be a while until we see any sort of use with a Starlink. My bet is on version 2.
Yeah. Alrighty. Sorry, just looking for some more questions from you guys. Bideford, one of our regulars, saying, actually quite festive and beautiful. It is pretty cool what they've done. Not so super full stack. Was wondering if we'd get SPMT ASMR, and I don't think we did, unfortunately. All right. Another question, because these flights are still suborbital trajectories, does that mean they still count as hop tests? So when hop is still a valid question. I think when hop is still a valid question. Right?
Yeah, I'd say for now. I honestly, assuming this does the suborbital trajectory and it's successful, I could see them trying to get into a stable orbit that requires a deorbit burn sooner rather than later. So they can test all that stuff now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that we have passed all of our really good views, we're going to throw this over to Starbase Live and let some of our commentators, operators, and all those people get rested for more amazing content to bring you guys tomorrow and in the future. So joining me today has been Ryan. Ryan, thank you very much for staying up at 4 a.m. your time to cover this with us.
Oh, no problem. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then also we've had the wonderful, recently 27-year-old Mr.
Oh, boy.
Physics himself. Alex, thank you for joining us.
Don't remind me how old I am, please. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. A very Christmas role that we have had here.
Yeah. And then I've been your host for today, Trevor Sesnick, a writer here at NSF. And if you guys go over to Starbase Live, you will soon see the boost or the ship rolling by the Gateway to Mars sign. But that'll do it for us tonight, or the middle of the night in Starbase. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a good one. Thanks, everyone.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger with Planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FTE off. Bring in FTE off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.